I wanted to quit. I was crying because I not only had gotten shut down, but it looked like I'd blocked everyone. And my phone was ringing all morning. Jess, what's happened? Where are you? And I'm like, all of this other stuff would just fall away.
Jessica Quigley, everyone. She is a quantum business, self-mastery and intuitive coach.
I was a child at the school ground. I walked around. I didn't have friends. I was lost. I wasn't academically smart.
When I turned 21, I was given money by my mom. She said, go, travel, go and see the world. Do you know what I did? I went and
coaching. It's all changing. The industry is changing. And I believe that we are being called for more.
There's only one question in the entire world that actually breaks my brain that somebody posed to me, many, many years ago. And they said, and I was like, what the fuck?
Cosmic Money, the podcast. The strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.
Hello, gorgeous beings. Welcome to today's podcast of Cosmic Money, the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business. Hell yes to that. I am your amazing host, Skye Hanley, and I have an amazing human here with us today that I am very grateful to call a friend. One of those friends that we've not met in real life, and yet. I think the absolute world of you. This is Jessica Quigley, everyone. She is a quantum business, self-mastery and intuitive coach. I've been very blessed to actually both journey with Jess in containers together. We roam in some of the similar circles. And we've also done a bit of work together over the years as well, like bringing our clients and amazing humans next level results and again, the strategy and energetics of business and life and mastery and all the amazing things. So hi, Jess, how are you?
Hello, I'm so incredibly excited to be here, and I'm really excited about the conversations that will be unfolding. So yes, I'm really, really super excited to talk about all things life, energetics, business, money, so that we can really give the viewers some value and hopefully give them a thread to be able to really go away and be able to apply things for themselves so that they can get some results in their own lives and businesses as well.
Yes, because that's what it's all about, right? Like we were just talking about connection and things like that, and I'm sure we'll jump into that soon enough. And I think that, that's why we show up, right? It's for connection, it's for contribution, it's for growth, it's for sharing the codes and all of those amazing things. And I know, that's what it's like for me, and I know that the same to be about you. Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually just took a month off, my first proper holiday in 3 years since I left nursing of 22 years.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful to spend that time with my family, but a month was way too long. I really missed my work and I couldn't wait to get back to it.
I did 2 weeks, I did 2 weeks air quotes off. But I'm the same. Like I can't help myself but to check in with my clients, like just in the background sometimes, or see where everyone's at and make sure they're okay. And, I just did a podcast on the core human needs, and it's not out of a need for importance, but out of a need for that contribution. And, there's only one question in the entire world that actually breaks my brain that somebody posed to me, many, many years ago. And they said, who are you without service? And I was like, what the fuck? I don't know.
Exactly. Because it's who we are. It's not something that we go and do. It's not we go and put our work hat on. It literally becomes a part of who we actually are. And so when we're not actually doing our purpose work, it's like a part of us is missing. And our purpose work lights us up. Absolutely. And so it gives us that zest during our day, and we can inject that back into our family and back into our friends and back into all of the other things that we do when we're anchored and plugged into our purpose work. So, I just couldn't wait to come back to work.
Yeah, tick. We're in agreement. Yeah. um, so tell us, Jess, like a little bit about yourself. You mentioned a second ago, obviously, like that, you used to be a nurse. I mean, if that isn't purpose driven, connection, like service work, I don't know what is. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up, being the human that it is that you are now, with the success that you hold now, serving at the level that you serve now. What came before this?
Oh my goodness, there's a big story, but actually a lady reached out to me in Messenger just a couple of days ago and asked me the question, what got you started? And actually, when I was 14 years old, I had a desire to be a coach. And I had a huge desire to study myself. I always felt that people weren't talking about what was going on internally. People weren't sharing their emotions. And so I came into the world and I felt different. I felt like, why is no one talking about what's going on internally for them? And so when I was 14 years old, I saw a family that went through a personal development course. It was called the Landmark Forum. Have you heard of that, Skye?
Yes,
Many
yes,
people
yes,
have.
yes,
I think it operates to this day.
Yeah.
And I saw some drastic changes go on in that family. First of all, the parents, the mum and the dad, went and did the program, and there was a children's program, and the whole family went through that entire program, and something significant changed within each individual in the family. And I was so curious and I wanted it. I wanted to sign up for that program, but I didn't have the access to the finances to pay for that program. But I knew that I wanted to do it. And as soon as I turned 21, I was given some money by all of my grandparents. And I didn't even have to think about what I was going to do with that money. I used all of that money and I invested in myself. And that's where my personal development journey began. And that's what got me into nursing, because I wrote down on a little card that my purpose was to make a difference in the life of someone else. And so at the time, I thought nursing and going and helping people when they're in their most vulnerable state, I thought, wow, what a huge impact that I could make, what a huge contribution to society. And so it gave me the confidence to apply for nursing, and I went through that journey and I became a nurse. And I have to say that actually on the first day on the job, I knew that nursing wasn't it. My spirit, my soul, the first day on the job, I got on the nursing floor and soul was like, this is not it.
Wow. It's so interesting. Like, that you and I already know this, that we have quite a few similar through lines within our existence, same, but different. And, you actually remind me of, even just in that amount, you remind me of two amazing stories from my own existence as well. And the first one, being when I turned 21, I was given money by my mom, it was a sizable amount. And, and she said, go travel, like go and see the world, like, or whatever it's going to be. Like, here is this money. This is your 21st gift. Do you know what I did? I went and bought a computer, like, and and I was so fucking proud of myself as well, because I knew that was what I wanted, that I was like, oh my God, and this is back in the day when like having a computer was maybe not necessarily like the norm or whatever. Like, let's not figure out how many years ago that was. But, and so doing that for my 21st birthday, knowing that there was something so much more inside of me that wanted to learn and to grow and to, whatever. And that was what I bought the computer for. It was for the purpose of study and personal development and growth and expansion and all the rest of it. And with your nursing journey, and I forget this story, and so thank you for giving me a little reminiscent moment. I had a sliding doors moment within my own life that was literally it was sliding doors at the exact moment that I had gone for a traineeship as an RN, and I ended up being accepted for that traineeship as a registered nurse and all the rest of it. I also at the same time received a letter from a very prestigious performing arts college that I had gotten in. And I sat there with those two kind of pieces of paper, those two offers. And it was so very much like this sliding doors moment within my life where I was like, okay, like which is it? You know, am I going down like this passion and expansion of of acting and all the things that I did within that realm, or am I going to go and follow this medical mind of mine that, again, wants to be of service and care? And I actually picked the acting,
I bet.
and the acting, that choice has given me everything that I have today, like, the confidence and the ability and, whatever else. Right.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, as and I'll stop talking about myself in a second.
Nice.
Like to now even be in a place where I'm restudying within the medical field for joyousness and for fun and out of choice because because I've created a life of freedom, and I still get to now pursue that in a way that feels really good and beautiful and aligned. And so I just find it so interesting. As you and I talk, because I'm like, I know, and I get it, and oh my God, and me too, like within that.
I love that. I love that you've had the choice to go back and to access that part, right? You get to choose and you get to do a little bit of all of this, and it's just so beautiful, and it all weaves in together and complements as well our journey, and it helps us grow as human beings, and the gifts that each different part of our life and what we decide to do, it opens up so much more for us. So, I mean, my nursing journey was definitely a gift, and it was a foundation for everything that I do now.
Yes. And I totally understand that and can see that. And I think, even with our listeners out there at the moment, like they might be in that moment right now, or they may share a similar story to us, where it's like, oh, I get it now. I was within a service space that still maybe didn't feel aligned, that I knew that there was more in me, or that there was something else that, that the universe had in store, a direction I was being pointed. But perhaps, the same for both you and I, we needed to go through that iteration of ourselves first, to be able to be this version of ourselves now.
Absolutely. I mean, it was, on the first day of the job, I got the download, I got the insight that this isn't it.
Yeah.
And it was a 22-year journey, right? And I wrote a post just a day ago where I reflected on, I literally let my registration go in 2022. It wasn't that long ago, and it took such a long time. Even though I stepped into my coaching business, I hit multiple six figures, I still had to sign up for the registration. The fear at letting that go after holding that security and what I knew, and what if something happened, and what if it all fell apart. And to let go of that registration for the first few years, I had to keep registering because it was my safety net. And then I was able to finally let it go. And I didn't feel fear or resistance when I let it go. I knew that I can do that easily now. I feel neutral around it, and it's time.
Yes. And that you'd be okay, that you were safe.
Yeah.
How empowering.
It was. It was so significant, because I just never thought that I'd be able to really step out of nursing. It was so safe to be there. And I spent 12 years building my coaching business while I was a nurse. So I had the safety of the backup. So I wasn't in any desperation. It wasn't like I had to have clients to survive, because I could go to work a couple of days a week in nursing, and then I had a few days a week for coaching my clients. So it was this beautiful balance for many, many years. So when God, universe, spirit came knocking on my door and started to really pull me in the direction of, okay, it's really time to go now, and you will not be able to grow the business to where you want it to be while still holding the container open for nursing. You've only got so much time and energy for where I was at, and a mum of 3. And it was a really, really scary time. I was being pulled. Soul was leaning me in this direction, and this side of my brain, the left side, the comfort, it was saying, stay safe. Things are going great right now. It's all going well. Stay where you are. But I was being called over here. And so there was, for a few years, this push-pull. And, it took a lot of courage. It took a huge amount of courage to say, okay, goodbye nursing. I'm going to actually go all in. And and
And
this
never
is what
look back.
I love to help women, in leaving once they've got some results, in really like closing that loop and stepping into what they truly love. Because I know how difficult it was for me, and I never would have been able to do that on my own, ever, 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 not in a million years.
We very much speak about courage here on this podcast. I've said many times before that the saying that changed my life was, our lives will only expand in proportion to how much courage we are willing to have. And I need to have that tattooed on me somewhere, because it absolutely, when I heard that was the catalyst for the greatest amount of change. And so, I love that you are being a channel for that message even further, so that again, our listeners can understand that on the other side of that edge is where the magic happens. And sometimes, as you did, Jess, sometimes we have to close that fucking back door, and it's a signal to, and we can say universe, spirit, God, the back of our brain, whatever it might be, but it is a sign that we are like, I am willing, to have courage, to step through the edge and to see the magic that now gets to happen on the other side. But sometimes to step into that iteration, we have to let go of something too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really, really frightening. But the beautiful thing is when we're really connected to whatever we reside with, all that is. So there's lots of different names for universe, God, spirit, what we've talked about, the divine, source energy. But when we actually are led by that higher power, we get to be led every step of the way. And so I really deeply reflected on this a few days ago, and what I noticed was that each step unfolded as my journey unfolded, and I was always given a bridge, which was achievable for me to cross with where I was at the time. Yes. I wasn't given a huge bridge that was unrealistic. And I find that this is true to this day. I'm given the next step, and it's a bridge. And some of the bridges are scarier than others, but the bridges are the leaps and the gaps to a realistic next level of what's actually possible from where I'm at right now. So those 12 years of balancing nursing and coaching, I wasn't pulled in such a huge way in the beginning, in the first couple of years, because I wasn't ready for that bridge to unfold. I needed to get stability and being confident and having all of those coaching hours up and learning how do we actually build a coaching business from social media. I've only ever used Facebook. Yeah. And so it's really like I've been led and guided each step of the way. And this is what I love to share and teach people as well, that we'll be guided when we let go and when we stop trying to figure it all out, when we stop trying to figuring out the how, we'll be actually guided. And it's the little steps, it's the little dance, it's the threads, it's the book, it's the person that shows up, it's the step and the step and the step and the step.
Yes. And so something you wouldn't know is, let me tell you a secret. What's the thing when people are talking about you? Is that like your ears are burning or something? Is that what the saying is? Yes. Yeah. So your ears would be burning more like all of the time. Because in fact, in one of my coaching sessions yesterday, my group coaching session, our Soul Nation, it's called, we were actually talking about you, and you were such an amazing example. And this is not the first time that your name has come up within coaching sessions. And in fact, somebody else brought you up, and I was like, yes, Jess, oh my God,
Thank you.
Because your journey, over the last, 3 years, and watching you, and you gave me the most beautiful compliment a minute ago. And, and I sat there in that compliment, and the back of my brain was going, I could say all of the things to you. Like, it's actually, like, you've been amazing to watch, your journey and your transformation. And as I said, so much so that we use you as an example, like within our collectives, for what you've been able to accomplish, for the support that you give to be that person of contribution and of service and of integrity, and also like stability. And that's what we were kind of talking about yesterday, is that, you show up every single month, you are so clear, and it is, and your message is strong, and you do it again and again and again and again, which is why you are a go-to expert, which is why you are known, because you are so solid in the things that you are and you believe, as well as within your journey of transformation and expansion and things like that.
Oh, thank you so much. That is such a beautiful compliment. And this is what I love to teach and help other coaches and affiliate marketers and network marketers and therapists, that it doesn't have to be complicated. And if you stick with what you love and that one strategy, and you use that same strategy, you will execute it more powerfully the next time. And then the next time, I was just having a conversation. I actually walked this morning and actually coached a lady in my community. She rang. She's like, "Is now a good time?" I'm like, "Well, I'm hot and sweaty, but sure." She wanted some help. And so I said to her that picking the one strategy, there is so much to that. Yes. Because if you choose the same one, you build a relationship with that strategy. You build pathways, neurological pathways to that strategy, and you just become such a master of it. And I see so many women who are trying to build businesses, and they're jumping from one thing to the next and trying to find the thing that's going to work. And it really can be so simple, where you just find that one thing that you absolutely love, and you find one part of it that you love, and you really, really go deep on that.
Yes. And that, I'm going to send this podcast to all of my clients that were there, because that, in fact, was the piece we were talking about. We were talking about your refinement, your mastery codes, and the that idea of one offer, one message, $1 million, one offer, one message, $1 million, and the strategic, business mentor in me as well, will often teach on the fact of what you just said. Simple business is scalable business. If we're blowing it up all the time, if we're chopping and changing, if we're reinventing the wheel, then actually, in fact, we're going to be vague, and it's going to be confusing to our audiences, and we're not going to be able to call in, deeply connected soul tribe, because they can't quite understand, what it is that we do, or what are we up to, or, that kind of a thing. So it's that refinement and that mastery for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love to share that and help women with that, so that they can just focus on the one thing, the one strategy, and what they love to do, and eliminating the things that they don't want to do, or tweaking those parts of their business that they don't enjoy, so that they actually can find more fulfillment. So, for example, I'm not in that much of, haven't been aligned with content creation, as far as I know for a while that I've needed to set time aside to spend a whole day creating my content, so that I have beautiful, powerful content that speaks directly to my ideal clients, and it works well to schedule in a whole day for that. Now, there was a part of me that was like, "Oh, a whole day, doing that." And so I had to change it. I had to make it so that I'm actually going to take myself to the casino. I'm going to pay to be able to be there for the day. I'm going to be in my bikini. I'm going to be swimming by the pool. I'm going to be purchasing my lunch. I'm going to get myself all set up. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be the most enjoyable day. I'm actually going to have a sauna before I head over to the casino. And, I'm going to be really enjoying that day and looking forward to it, so that I'm in the best energy. And so that it really feels aligned. Because if I was like, "Oh, a content creation day," I'd avoid it. I wouldn't want to do it. And then the quality of the content creation is not going to be there, because I'm not in the right energy when I'm creating it.
Yes, I love that. Every piece of me is like, "Ooh, that's so juicy. I need to go and have a beautiful, luxurious, day myself." I am so all for that. Something you and I were talking about actually just before we came on here. Again, you're such a gorgeous human, and you complimented me on my 20 kilograms of weight loss. And in fact, I will have our next podcast coming up. Will be in and around that, and who I needed to become to get that result, and and all the rest of it. And I'll unpack it with everyone, and we'll be very vulnerable. However, the piece that I wanted to say that really connects to what we're talking about here right now is that you know how people have words of the year and stuff like that. And I've always had one sort of floating around. Like, I don't mind sort of picking a bit of something or whatever. And normally mine are like expansion and like growth and like all of these amazing, you know, kinds of things. And then last year, in fact, the word that I chose was mastery, you know, and that was the first time that I probably picked something so, I don't know, grounded or, you know, like, and required a different version of myself. Expansion for me is fucking easy. Everything in my existence is always like expanding out in one way, shape, or form or another. But to master something, again, connecting us back to that refinement, connecting us back to, I don't mind which word people use, devotion or dedication. You know, my strategic, I swing a little bit more strategically on the pendulum than I do energetically. So for me, you know, dedication is what it took last year, you know. And so that particular result within my life, like 20 kilos gone, you know, hormones back on track, which was the problem, you know, mindset and everything else, was simply a reflection of my dedication to mastery. And that was actually my word of the year. And I feel as if, you know, like hashtag nailed it, like, which I'm just excited about, you know, to sit here a year on and be like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I really embodied. And mastery, like, let's just face it, mastery is a forever game. I'm not sitting here going, I'm such a fucking master now, like, you know, I'm such a boss or something. But, you know, being able to sit through that. And let me make another point just briefly, and I'd love to hear what you think about this as well, that you know, to be able to get up and do the fucking work, even when you cannot see the result. And that is probably one of the biggest things that I had to remind myself throughout the year, because you know, 20 kilos at this end of things sounds quite big, and it's like, hooray, amazing. And you know, the bit of me that wants what it wants and wants it now is like, I should have done better. It should have happened faster. I'm going to shit all over myself and all the rest of it, you know, and my entitlement kicks in, right? Because there were periods of time when plateau occurred, and I still got up and had to do the work and chose that devotion and dedication and, you know, and mastery of self, which included my brain and my mind and where it was going, you know, to now sit here with that result. And that wasn't always easy, you know, and it's no different. And I learned this lesson throughout last year, that, you know, it's easy for me within the business spectrum, and sometimes in other areas of my life, it doesn't come naturally, you know, to do the thing without expectation and sometimes without being able to see the result yet.
Oh, absolutely. You've done amazing. Like, and that shows up in business. Like, it's a journey, and you've got to be in it for the long haul. And when the results are not coming through into our physical reality, we've got to allow ourselves not to attach ourselves to the non-results coming through. And a lot of people give up, you know, and it's so sad because I can understand why they do. You know, what we do is a game. And it is a difficult game, but as you build on your self-mastery, it gets easier. But, you know, in the beginning, it can be some hustle. It can be times where you feel like you are climbing up Mount Everest, and it can be really, really hard going, and you want to give up. I had my Facebook account shut down in September 2021. And I ran everything from Facebook, and I was running a group session an hour after it got shut down. I didn't have everyone's email addresses in front of me or phone numbers, so I could just call everyone and say, hey, you'll have to access the Zoom link. I didn't have WhatsApp, you know, set up. I wasn't set up for a Facebook account to be shut down. And that week I wanted to quit. I actually fantasized about getting a job at a coffee shop across the road from the ocean. And that looked like a great existence at that point in time. I thought I could drive there and it would be joyous, serving coffee and staring at the ocean, and then I could literally just get in my car and drive home. And all of this other stuff would just fall away. But of course, you know, I didn't decide to do that. Of course, I was never going to choose that, but just so much fear and inner turmoil. And it wasn't just the Facebook account getting shut down, it stirred up lots of fear within myself. Can I actually really realistically, continue along this? It brought up some real deep seated fears. So
Yeah. It's
yeah.
interesting. I remember the day that happened, because I think you and I were doing some planning and working together or whatever at that stage as well. And I honestly, that made me sick as well. Like literally, like when you said that, I was like, I'm going to vomit, because, and we have backups on backups within business. So let's just put that out there as a lesson to everyone today. Like you have backups on backups and all the different things. Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
we do now.
I was so devastated for you, and it brought fear up in myself as well. And I remember you saying, like, I think I'm just, I may just get a job, by the ocean and serving coffee and things like that. And even that little piece of my brain went, yeah, that totally makes sense. I get that. Like, yeah, for sure. That sounds amazing. Like, what a relaxed day that would be. And then just drive home and all the rest of it. Like this fantasy, that we float sometimes. Like, but as we progress in business, and as we, even with confidence comes from the doing of the thing. Like we can sit here now perhaps a bit more confident than maybe we were years ago, because we've gone through the turmoil. We've experienced not all of the first, but we've experienced a lot of firsts.
Yeah.
And the when something happens, as in business, for the first time, it is like daggers to the heart. It is, just like, oh my God, I still, will have a meltdown or something like that when I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what the fuck to do. And, and I'm like, like this thing I didn't expect or whatever, and I think that we just become smarter at journeying it. We become a little bit more stable because we know we've journeyed tough things before, because we've had a lot of firsts,
Absolutely.
and so when something comes up, right? Like, and we may have that little canary in the back of our head, like, saying maybe you should get a real job, or whatever, like, or something, the turnaround time's a lot faster, right? Like the turnaround, it's like, no, that, like, yes, that sounds amazing. And also no, like we're not doing that today or any other day.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was a big challenge, but a lot of gifts came along with that as well. And I got straight back on, I created a new profile, and the gift that brought was, there's nothing that can ever be shut down, because nothing can ever be taken away from the self-mastery and who I am. So we can always create a new account, and we just get started. And through the law of attraction and through spirit, we just get to continue on what we're doing. It doesn't matter. They can't take us down. So it just eliminated that fear now. And I'm no longer afraid that if something happened, I'd just get started again. Simple as that.
Yeah. And that you could, and it's just
easily.
Yep. Yeah.
Easily. But yeah, it was mayhem, because not only did I have it shut down, but it looked like I blocked people. So it's the look that you get when you block people. So that's the part that really got me. That's the part where I was crying, because I not only had gotten shut down, but it looked like I'd blocked everyone. And my phone was ringing all morning. Jess, what's happened? Where are you? And I'm like, I haven't blocked you. I'm actually not on. So we move forward in really powerful ways, really, really powerful ways. And it just builds our strength, our internal strength, and our commitment to what we're here to do in the world, and what gifts we're here to share, and our mission and our purpose, and our why it is that we want to continue to show up and do the things that we do every single day.
Yes. And I asked you, before we started, mostly for our own purposes of catching up and hearing what's lighting you up right now. And I said, what are you really passionate about at the moment? And I loved your answer that you said what you're passionate about right now is building business on the foundation of connection. Talk to us about that.
I've spent my life obsessed with the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business. I've literally traveled the world trying to crack the code. And what I've found is that when you couple the pursuit of making massive amounts of money with the strategy and science of success, plus having a desire for significant impact and contribution, magic happens. That's why I created a free 21-day next level vortex money mission magic. Hell yes to that. This 21-day quantum business challenge is here to shift you into new timelines and realities. 21 days to quantum shift your impact, business, and your bank account. These carefully crafted and channeled tools are the exact things I've used to create a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I'm not done yet. If you're ready for incredible transformation now in all areas of your life, more money and financial freedom, freedom of time, freedom of lifestyle, freedom of choice, better, more connected relationships, greater levels of health, and simply calling in more magic into every single day, then these 21 days are going to blow your mind. 21 days of powerful universal, behavioral, and strategic tools to quantum shift your internal state so that you start to see massive changes in your external reality, bringing the metaphysical into the physical. Join the challenge now and get ready for the most powerful 21-day expansion to quantum shift your impact, business, bank account, and your life. Cosmic Money, the podcast, the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's one of my favorite topics. Do you know that it was only sort of about 18 months into building my business, and I sat here in my chair one day and I had the realization that I'd literally built my business on the foundation of connection.
Yeah.
Because from a very young age, I yearned for that myself. I was a child at the school ground. I walked around. I didn't have friends. I was lost. I wasn't academically smart. I didn't do well at sports. I was the last in the running race. I was a very average netballer. And I just felt very alone because I was looking for a soul connection. I was looking for those deep conversations about feelings and thoughts and internal stuff. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it in my family. I couldn't find it in my friends. And so I embarked upon this journey. I felt very, very alone for most of my life. And what I realized 18 months into leaving nursing, I just had an epiphany, and I was sitting here one day and I just started crying, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I created what I wanted to live, because I get to sit here all day, every day. And I don't sit here all day, every day. Definitely don't do 5 days a week anymore. But when I'm sitting in my chair and I'm providing group programs and one-on-one coaching, I get to provide that deep intimacy. I get to provide that level of connection, that soul level of connection that I always wanted more than anything else. And so just to continue on that and bringing it back to that, the focus on connection, because the coaching, it's all changing. The industry is changing. And I believe that we are being called for more connection. We're being called for more intimacy building in our relationships with people. And I'm excited about that, because that's me. That's what I absolutely love to do. So I'm going to be going even deeper on that, this year, and looking at ways that I can build a deeper connection with people and build more intimate relationships with community and clients, of course. And I just started retreats last year, which is super exciting. My goal is 11 retreats a year. I want to run 11 retreats, one every single month, having the month of December off. Yeah. But I'm really passionate about that because, you get to really bring people in, you're there together. And I mean, it's just game changing for people to actually come and work in person and be in this energy and the upgrades that they experience going on from that. It's just, I've never seen anything like it.
And especially after, the last few years of disconnection and, disassociation and disinformation and all the different things, like, something we have been craving for sure is coming back together, is, being in person, is real relationship building and things like that. And, I always just love sitting here talking to you. I could talk to you all day. Because one of your superpowers, I truly believe, is in your, how would I describe it? In your childlikeness, and I mean that as a compliment, like in your openness, in your vulnerability, and that open-heartedness, you actually are the permission slip to open that in others, and so when I see it and I chat to you, and I'm sure, anyone who works with you and anyone who knows you would say this as well, that you are so open-hearted, that being in your presence, even if it is simply, online or listening or whatever it might be, you're able to just simply crack open, something within others that is there, that is real, that is raw, and that is, their heart as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness, heart swells. Like, yeah, and to be able to help people, access more of their heart and their love and their humanity and their compassion, and I'm a real person, in my group coaching programs, I'm really vulnerable, I get tired. Some days I'm not in the best energy, of course. And so just sharing with people that, you can get results no matter where you're at. You don't need to wait until you're a perfect human being and all of your problems are solved and all of your ducks are lined up, in a row. You can achieve greatness if you've got your heart and your soul and your why and your mission and your purpose and your love and your joy. If you've got all of that anchored in, you can get the results. You don't have to wait until you've overcome X, Y, Z, because it's such a journey.
Yeah, and I'd add to that as well, like what you said before, courage and showing up. It's simply like, it's all of those pieces. Like, if you know at the core that you are a good human, you're out there doing good things and you are on mission and you have a why and you love greatly and there's something inside of you, a burning desire, and you choose to show up and have courage to step through to whatever, spirit, God, the universe is calling and asking of you. You made me think of that before. You spoke about the bridges, right?
Yes.
We have to be in a particular frequency to see the bridges, because let me tell you, for everyone listening, the bridges are there. The bridges and the opportunities and the whispers from the universe, they are absolutely there. It's just whether you're paying attention to them or not, whether you are coming at reality from an open-hearted space, or whether maybe you're closed off or shut down. And this can happen. One of the things Jess and I were talking about as well is that there's a lot of damage and baggage out there at the moment, and I actually say that with so much love, because I'm having conversations, and I have been with clients and potential new clients and things like that over the last few months. And they're coming to me and they're saying things like, I've learned more in the last hour than I have in the entire year of another coaching program that I've been in, or I can't believe like how willing you are to show up and to help us exactly when we need it. And, all of those kinds of things, that they're not getting the support and the connection, that people are becoming numbers, and we hear that saying sort of thrown around, but I really feel that there is this transition in the nowness, of that we are expecting a higher standard of those that we surround ourselves with and the environments that we put ourselves in. And so we fucking should, because we are desiring connection, and, and that has been missing.
Absolutely. I'm in conversations every single day with women who are paying off coaching packages, and the support wasn't there, the connection wasn't there, the hand holding wasn't there, and they're feeling
scared.
They are very scared to reinvest,
scared because they don't want to make another mistake again. Because it's we start to question ourselves in that.
Absolutely.
And so it's emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's about us having that integrity where making sure that before we sign on clients, I've said no to a whole lot of people just in the last week because what I provide isn't exactly the fit and the match that they're looking for. So letting people know this isn't right for you right now. Just for example, a lady reached out. She hasn't got coaching certifications yet. She paid $10,000 to be in a coaching program to help her grow a business, but there was no cert for it. And she doesn't feel like she really has any tools. And she's only 20 years old. And so my advice for her was to go away and get yourself certified and go all in on that so that you have the confidence, so that you have the tools.
Yes.
And then in the future, come and send me a message and we will talk about where you're at then and potentially how I can help you.
Yes.
And so really having that integrity and making sure that we are vetting people and making sure that what we specifically do is going to be the absolute ideal fit and match for that client.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting as well when we talk about like dollars, you know, as a frequency, as an energetic exchange for the work that we do. It is fascinating as well that for, you know, as many sacred no's as you say, right? Like the financial reward, if we put it in those kinds of terms, is still in fact actually there.
Yep.
And there has been no one that has come on this podcast that isn't without integrity, you know, in what it is that they do, like and how it is that they show up and all of those pieces. And yet, you know, we're talking to 7-figure and multi-7-figure, you know, business owners, right, who are saying no's, who are standing in their integrity, right, who aren't taking on board every man, woman, and child, who aren't necessarily hustling, you know, out there. And that doesn't mean that there aren't times of, you know, air quotes, hustle. Like we all, you know, are fairly obsessed with what it is that we do, and we show up every single day in honor, like, exactly, of those missions, right? And you know, we can say those no's and still, in fact, and generally more so, you know, 10x our income.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And people really appreciate that because they have the safety when you say, no, this isn't right for you yet, or you need to start here, or you need to go and do that thing first and then come back to me in a few months or in 6 months.
Yes.
They feel so safe. I just had a lady that signed up 2 days ago, and there was something that she felt really afraid about doing, which is absolutely an essential part of something that she needs to do in order to be able to grow an online business. And so I really called her on that and said, I will not be able to help you if you don't do that thing. I do not want to waste your time, your money, and that will be absolutely key. I'll help support you to do that thing and to breaking through the fears that you have. Yes. But if you can't give me a commitment that you can do that thing, we can't work together with love.
Yes.
She is a raving fan because I was straight and straight with her and let her know this isn't going to work if you can't do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. And you held her to a higher standard of herself. Yep. And I think that in its own right is a telltale of an amazing mentor and coach, you know, because like, you know, again, my clients know I'm a little bit of a butt kicker with, you know, I'm all love and I'm going to fucking kick you in the ass as well, you know, and call you out on your shit. Right. And I love hard on my clients. And there is also, to put it in, like, I don't love this saying, but we're going to go with it. You know, I'm also not there to be their friend all the time. Like, and I am their friend, of course, and I love them, you know, but at the same time, like, I am not serving them if I am not calling out the shit and if I am not kicking them in the butt, if I'm not holding them to a higher standard of themselves. And I had the same experience yesterday with a client as well, who after our group session, you know, she posted in our group community because she was a little bit scared to do so. And she said, after today's coaching, I literally feel sick, you know, and I'm full of all this nervousness and energy, you know, and I was like, awesome, great, perfect, you know, but even in her post, she, you know, she said herself, she was like, because she knew she was being held to a higher standard, that she was being called, and not my standard, but, you know, the universe and her program and her life is calling for something greater. Yes. And, you know, nervousness and anxiety uses the same pathway as excitement, right? So it's both. We're able to have that duality where it's like, okay, I feel both nervous about what's to come because I know that I'm being called forward, and I'm about to fucking pass out on the ground because I don't know if I can do this.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And really holding people through all of that, through that journey where they're crushing it and they're achieving 50K and 100K months.
Yes.
And then they're going through winter, you know, and shit is hitting the proverbial fan. and they feel like giving up and all their internal stuff is coming up. So, being able to know when it's time to kick butt, but when it's time to nurture and just to love and really sit side by side. I mean, what a gift that we get to share, and people can't get what we offer inside our containers. It's not accessible out there in the world. It's not accessible. So what we offer is something very, very unique. And it's the foundation of it is love, connection, support, right? At the highest level. And it's not available out there. And so it's just such a gift. It's just such an honor to be able to provide a service that is very unique, and actually it's a basic foundational human need. The first coaching program that I signed up for, the first high ticket program, was $12,000, and that was a lot for me back then when I was leaving nursing. I had invested a lot over the years in personal development, but it was like $2,000 here, maybe $3,000. That was, a lot at those times. And I was always investing in little bits and pieces, but a big chunk, it was like, whoa. And I was 40 years old at the time, and I got the support for the first time in my life. I had to wait until I was 40 until I actually got that support. And it was the support. It was the support that had me do all the things. I felt supported. For the first time in my life, I felt supported. And
we're not information poor. We're really not information poor, right? Like we can all get our hands on pretty much any piece of information probably somewhere out there for free in one way, shape or form or another, perhaps. But the thing that we don't always have is in fact that accountability, that love, that being held to a higher standard. And as you were saying, like being here for it all, being here for the high highs and also being here for the low lows, and being able to support somebody as they move through that, and all of those amazing pieces. Like that's actually what people, come to these types of containers and programs for in one way, shape or form or another. I want to ask you something. I'm curious about this. In fact, lately I've been in some really interesting situations and or environments is probably a better word, not situations, environments. I've been in some really interesting environments of people who are very outside of our realm of things, and I realized, I realized, as you said, like how non-mainstream what it is that we do, is in fact. And if somebody, people who are listening to this podcast, they are also within this stream, right? We're all in this slipstream of understanding personal development, wanting to better ourselves, expand. I'm not saying there's better than or worse than. What I'm saying is I've been in environments where people are now starting to get used to me and starting to get to know me a little bit better. And they're getting a little bit more forward with their questions. And they're like, what is it that you do, Skye? Like I see you online and I see your reels and they're great and you're very colorful and I don't understand them. And what do you do? Yes. And I've had that question quite a lot lately. And I still struggle with an answer, and it's not because I don't know what it is that I do. I perfectly know, I'm a high ticket sales mentor. I run mentorship programs to help people like create, grow and fill, their high ticket programs and things like that. I'm a podcaster. I am an author. I am a, all these different things. And when placed in, I don't know, my mum would call it muggle land or something, placed in with all the muggles. Like it's actually a really hard thing to explain. And and the essence of it is somehow lost. I haven't nailed that yet. So I don't know if you've had an experience or where you sit. Like, how do you navigate that situation with people, that may not fully understand what it is that we do or what it is that we're about? I had somebody ask me if it was a pyramid scheme, because they, it's the good old coaches, coaching, coaches, coaching, coaches. And they were like, no, but really, is it like one of those pyramid things? Like, and I was like, no, it is not.
Oh my goodness. I can totally resonate with what you've just said as well, because we do so many different things. And,
Yes.
our problem.
How do you quantify that? Like, how do you sit there and quantify, the best that I can do is say I'm a business mentor.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way, and that in its essence, it is what I do, but it's so not what I am, or it's like, it's this little sprinkle of like the actual full picture.
Agree. And this year, and just I hired a content creation coach, because that's something that I've committed to absolutely mastering this year, so that when I am writing my content, people know exactly what it is that I do. There's no muddle. The muddle's like eliminated. They're like, okay, this is Jess Quigley. This is what she do, and these are the 3 things that she specifically helps clients with. So I'm just refining that, and I got really clear actually yesterday about lead generation. That's something that I find that so easy, and that's one of the things that I help women with their lead generation. I can get hundreds of women every single month coming and joining me in my free online monthly event, Your Money Blueprint. And lead generation for me has always been like breathing. And so that's one of the things that I'm very gifted at. And it's one of the things that I really enjoy as a part of my business. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to be talking about more in my content, so that people can clearly understand, if they come into my world, these are one of the things that Jess is an absolute master at, and this is what she'll help support me with. Obviously, online virtual events, obviously that's my absolute jam. So helping people get together, clarity around what is it that they want to provide, going to the marketplace and giving value. That's how I started building my business 12 years ago. I started building my business 12 years ago, giving spiritual emailed readings. They were $30. I was too afraid to talk to anyone. I'd literally download and channel the readings. I'd just literally type them into the email. There was no pretty banner head. It was literally just typing, and I couldn't believe it. People purchase globally, but it's because I went to my marketplace and I gave value. I used to do 3 hours of a free interactive reading on a business page called Divine Readings by Jess. And I did that for a year. And then suddenly I was like, oh my goodness, Spirit was like, you should do some private readings. And I was like, well, I've got a whole lot of stuff that's really important that I'd love to invest in, like going to the chiropractor and purchasing all of the products that the chiropractors provided, and going to the hairdressers regularly. And there was a certain amount of things that our family budget at the time just didn't allow for. So Spirit and I co-created. I went to the marketplace and I gave value, and then I was able to create a portal where all of that money came through for those things that I didn't quite have the money for. My business easily provided the money for those things. And this is another thing that I love to teach as well, is really healing our relationship with money and raising our money frequency, and being able to hold money energetically, emotionally, spiritually, but also to feel grounded in our bodies around receiving. Because for me, that's been such a journey. And I journeyed through 8 months when I realized why I wasn't receiving in full and upfront $20,000 payments from clients, because I felt like falling on the ground in nerves when I thought about the potentiality of that. My nervous system was stopping and blocking that from coming through. So it was an 8-month journey from the moment I realized it and I actually got access to the fear. I was like, whoa, because I was in close proximity with a coach that had a $20,000 sale, and all of my fear came up in witness in the container that I was in at the time. And I was like, how did she do that? And I'm sweating and I feel so nervous. And that was the best gift, because I'm like, well, this is why I'm not doing it, because I'm feeling this way right now. It's rejection. There is so much resistance here. And so from that moment when I witnessed that, it was 8 months from witnessing her receive $20,000 in full and upfront. And I wanted it, and I wanted to achieve it, and I wanted to heal all that stuff. And then 8 months later, my $20,000 in full and upfront payment starting to fly through.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I tell this story as well, 'cause I think
I've spent my life obsessed with the strategy and energetics of 7-figure business. I've literally traveled the world trying to crack the code. And what I've found is that when you couple the pursuit of making massive amounts of money With the strategy and science of success, plus having a desire for significant impact and contribution, magic happens. That's why I created a free 21-day Next Level Vortex Money Mission Magic. Hell yes to that. This 21-day Quantum Business Challenge is here to shift you into new timelines and realities. 21 days to quantum shift your impact, business, and your bank account. These carefully crafted and channeled tools are the exact things I've used to create a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I'm not done yet. If you're ready for incredible transformation now in all areas of your life, more money and financial freedom, freedom of time, freedom of lifestyle, freedom of choice, better, more connected relationships, greater levels of health, and simply calling in more magic into every single day, then these 21 days are going to blow your mind. 21 days of powerful universal, behavioral, and strategic tools to quantum shift your internal state so that you start to see massive changes in your external reality, bringing the metaphysical into the physical. Join the challenge now and get ready for the most powerful 21-day expansion to quantum shift your impact, business, bank account, and your life. Cosmic Money, the podcast, the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.
I think it surprised me, which is why I share it. So at the beginning of last year, I had it was something like a $54,000 day, and that was amazing. And I celebrated that. And I was like, yes, collapsing time and space, around receiving of money and potentiality and my own growth and all the rest of it. That lasted for about 3 days until we were literally driving home one day, and I started to feel just like a little bit sick and a bit like, like anxious or something. And I was like, I know that there's nothing wrong. Like I was perfectly fine. No conscious thought had flickered through my mind that I was like, oh, I need to worry about that thing. And I sat there for a few minutes with it, and I realized what it was the enormity and the responsibility of that, the responsibility to those humans and that, that investment and that receiving of. And why it really surprised me was because, I good old egotistical me, I thought I journeyed all the money stuff. Like I thought I'm good. I've got this, like at all levels, like, no worries. Like, let's fucking like, let it rain. Right. And to have that humbling moment, to be sitting there and literally feeling the pressure, the enormity, the resistance, I was surprised. And I was also humbled, that to find an edge, another piece of something being brought forward for me, to allow for greater expansion and, and more light being able to be, held within my being, right? More frequency, because that's really, what it is in one way, shape or form. And, to one of your other points, I truly believe, like myself in my own journey, I've always been really good at making money. Money has always been there when I've needed it for anything that I've ever wanted. It is rare that I go without, but I also work very hard, and I have worked hard my entire existence, to ensure I don't go without. So I was very good at making money. I was always good at spending money, but I was never very good at holding money. And I had to journey that myself as well, to be comfortable with, large sums of money being able to sit there in my realm without me necessarily having to do anything with that, and actually build that financial safety and security, and even that worthiness, to be the person that can hold that queendom's wealth.
Yeah, it's a big journey, and so a lot of clients, and I'm sure you've had this experience too, Skye, where they start to hit those high figure months, and then a lot of their money stuff comes up, and
and they sabotage.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, and they've got the money in the account now, so it's like they go out and hire a whole lot of stuff and get rid of the money quick because oh my God, we've got to do something with it. Can't hold on to it. Yeah. And then their plate is overflowing. They're in overwhelm and they're confused as all hell because they've got now all of these other coaches and all these other system things. And it's like, Yeah.
And quite often, like our brain, at a behavioral level, will often, and this is across the board, this isn't just with money, but very relevant to money, but our brain will often pick the certainty and discomfort of the norm, over the uncertainty of change and difference.
Absolutely.
Right. And so we will often, what is it? It's like a frog that just wants to jump into the boiling pot because that's what it knows or something. I feel like there's a metaphor and analogy around this, right?
Absolutely.
That we will keep putting ourselves in places and with people and things and situations, environments, the whole thing. That is uncomfortable, that doesn't serve us, because there is, in fact, a piece of us that it does serve, which is our need for certainty.
Yes.
And so even in a bad dynamic with another human, or even in an environment or a place, people, things, whatever it is, we will continue to gravitate back towards that until we are able to pick the uncertainty of difference, and move in that direction instead of staying the same. And that isn't always an easy thing.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Just you sharing that story, it just reminds me of another quick story about when I did leave nursing, and I did $100,000 in the first 3 months, and then multiple six figures within 6 months. And I was working 5 days a week. I had like 7 sessions during the day, and then I'd enter into 3 or 4 of an evening. So I'd get to the weekends and I'd just be like, oh my goodness, how am I doing all of this? And then on the weekends, I had time to think about what I was doing. And I'd literally shit myself because I didn't know how I was doing it, right? I didn't know how I was doing it. But there was a time where I had more money than what I'd ever had in my bank account. I think it was something like $60,000. I had reoccurring monthly payments coming through. I had like 40 clients or more, and I fell apart. I absolutely fell apart because I didn't have that muscle built to hold that. I didn't know success. I didn't know money in the account. I didn't know being successful at my purpose and what I always wanted to do. And I was so afraid. I thought, I'm a one-hit wonder. I'm like, this is all happening now, but this is it. This is just going to happen now, and then it'll all go away and the tap will be turned off. And it was about a week of all that stuff again surfacing, and how do I hold all of that? How am I even doing it? And so, it's like I love sharing these stories because new level, next devil. And you may look on Facebook and see people absolutely crushing it and achieving amazing things, but we don't always know what's coming up internally for people as a result of their success. Right. And as they're shifting and pivoting from one paradigm into the next, there's always stuff that comes up. So it's not always roses and lollipops. Definitely not. There's times of real internal stuff that comes up. And then all the while we're as coaches, we're required to hold all of that while we're holding everyone else. And so it's a big journey. It's a big job.
Yes. I sometimes talk about decision. I think it's called decision overwhelm, and there was a point probably in the middle of maybe last year, I think it was, that I was starting to just, creep into this like realm of basically like a decision overwhelm, because we're holding so much, and problem solving at all levels, and being, in the emotion of something with our gorgeous clients, and at the same time having to have a certain amount of discernment so that we can personally function in that moment and be that thing, that they need there and then, right? Like, so there's so much that is truly going on, as we said before, in what it is that we're doing. And, and I was getting to that kind of 6 o'clock at night, and my partner would be like, so what do you want for dinner? And I'd be like, oh my God, like, I swear to God, like, I can't even deal with that question. Like, don't even ask me. Like, I just need to, because I was problem solving all day long, for myself and for other people and for this and for that, and just, holding so much and probably just needing a little better regulation and deregulation or whatever else, like at that time. And so it was so interesting to have that, that concept of, of decision overwhelm, flicker past me at that right moment. And I was like, oh my God, it's that, like it's that is the piece that I can't even figure out what the fuck I want to have for dinner because I have had to make so many decisions and hold so much, across the board. That, that one little thing.
I can seriously relate. My husband's renovating right now, and he was having a conversation about all of the things, and I was just like, babe, I'm going to have to let you completely, that is your project, and you make all the decisions, and I don't care what paint color it is. I don't care what you do with any part of it. I know it will be amazing, and you just need to take care of it, because what you've spoken of is so true, that what we do, it takes so many skills. It's a multi-dimensional level of support where there's so many levels of support that are, in operation and activated at all times. I mean, I'm sure you think about your clients before you go into bed. They're with me, when I'm on a walk in the morning, certain things will drop in. I'll have, get a message to, suggest this, and it's just, we're holding so much at all times. So, it's a lot.
Yes. So, look, I could talk to you all day. I have a couple more questions for you. Of course, I hope we have the time for it. Again, you bring up a really awesome point and piece in there, and I'd love for you to touch on, your intuition, your quantumness, your multidimensionality, your gifts that you bring to the work that you do. I would love to hear what that energetic, universal, God, spirit piece is, and how that lands and resides within you.
Oh my goodness, what a question. Wow. For me, it's just a connection that I've always had. And so what I found for me is that I've always been very spiritually connected. And so it's not something that I have to try to maintain. It just exists. And so I've definitely gotten good at nurturing that connection, and that comes through being really healthy. And we had a conversation before we went live about the autoimmune disease stuff. And, I was so unwell for over a decade in autoimmune disease. I was in alcoholism as well. And so really having a really clear vessel as well, so that you can connect to life and all that is. And just being continuously on this wild ride of, growth and the shifts. I mean, I know that you will understand this. We're not the same people that we were last week. We're not the same people that we were last month. And so what I find, the work that I do with my clients, if they're not already completely anchored and plugged into that connection, and most people that come to work with me, they are anchored and connected. Otherwise, I wouldn't resonate with them. And so what happens is they automatically are plugged into that connection for themselves at a higher voltage level. And so they really start to energetically move at warp speeds. I mean, I've even had clients that haven't even started working with me, but they say yes to signing up. They already plug into something that's more powerful than what they've been reciting in on their own. And they message and they're like, holy, I'm really feeling it. I'm feeling some stuff. And so just to be able to support them in moving deeper into deeper levels of trust and faith, which builds on that connection to spirit, God, universe, whatever it is. Because, that really is the absolute key, to business. Tony Robbins, he says it all the time. Business is a spiritual game. And so if you're spiritually connected and you're living life like it's sacred, and you're anchored into your spirituality and your connection to life and all that is, that is the foundation of where everything comes from, that foundation. Yes. And that foundation first and foremost. And so we can all lose our way. I have days too where I'm just not feeling great. I'm tired. I'm a mum. There's lots of things going on and I don't feel connected. And so my step is to bring back that connection. So what do I need to do to bring back that connection? Sometimes the best business strategy is to go and do a meditation. Sometimes the best business strategy is to go and get a massage, book a float tank, take a walk
Yeah.
around the river, all of these things, because when you focus on bringing yourself back into alignment, you're connected to your greater good, your higher self. And then the tasks in business, they flow. Whereas when you're feeling frustrated and you're exhausted and everything is crap, it's clunky. You know exactly what I'm talking about here, Skye. It's like you then create more problems, and
Friction.
so exactly when you
Yeah.
go and get yourself back into alignment, even if that means I need to take the day off, I can't facilitate sessions today, cancel your day, go to bed for the day, or whatever it is, right? The most important thing is to get yourself back into alignment and then come back to the things that you love, because then everything just gets to be easy and everything just flows and stems from that foundational piece.
It's so interesting because you reminded me of something about this podcast, actually. And so I love floats. I love a good float tank and things like that. And I hadn't been gone and had a float for quite some time. And I was feeling like I had probably a month mixed in there at some point last year. Everything was feeling really hard and clunky. Everything you were saying, there was a lot of friction, like there was misalignment, which for me, like I always know that friction and, and how I'm feeling. And I start seeing things showing up in my reality. And I try not to freak out about it too much, because to me, it just means there's a piece of misalignment. And I know that I need to bring myself back into alignment and, everything will fall into place.
Yeah.
But in fact, this was the month previous to us launching this podcast. So I knew I was doing a podcast. I had started to record some episodes, but I hated them. Like the pieces weren't yet coming together of what I wanted this to be and what, who it was here for and what it was going to be about and, all that kind of stuff. I thought I knew, but I was like, it was almost like I was fabricating it, like by force. I'm going to do a podcast now and it's going to be this, and this very logically and strategically and all the things. And it felt yuck, and as I said, there were all these other things going on, this alignment, whatever. Yeah. So I finally went to have a float just because there was no ulterior motive by any means. And I went and had this float and literally, from the moment that I stepped into the shower, I think at Float Tank or whatever, like, that relaxation, that alignment, that surrender, everything just went quiet. And it was probably the first time, like, I think I was experiencing quite a bit of anxiety, and I'm not a hugely anxious person, but, on the odd occasion I'll be like, all these fucking things are going on, whatever. And it was the first time in like a month that everything went quiet. And I laid down, in the float, and I had this beautiful just nothingness. And I think I actually ended up falling like asleep, but it was that deep meditative asleepness where you're alive and you're awake and your channel is probably fucking opening, and I was aware of spirit around me, in full disclosure, like to people, I was in the full darkness and I was aware even though I was asleep, in amongst it. And when I got out and I jumped in the shower afterwards, all of the fucking downloads started flooding in, like everything. And I, again, goosebumps, everything in relation to, what I wanted this podcast to be, the strategy and energetics of 7-figure business, that it was going to be about welcoming people to their new highest timeline, the people that I wanted to have on here, that this was going to be an amazing celebration of friends and of, as I said to you, the talent and consciousness and, levels of humans that we are very lucky to have around us, and call friends and things like that. And I was like, I just want to celebrate that amazing talent and that, those amazing humans that are out there doing this amazing work that we do. And I sat there, in the little room outside of the float tank, for, I reckon, 45 minutes. At some point, I ended up messaging my partner because I was like, I'm alive. Like, just letting you know, I've actually just been sitting here. I was on my phone, which is, again, not something I would normally do after float, but I was like, I was sending out the messages. I was telling people, I was landing all the things because it just came like, flooding in. And so the best thing that I needed to do in my existence, my life, my frequency, my business at that time was to actually fucking stop, and I didn't do it deliberately for that, but it's this beautiful recognition, of what is actually available to us, right? The universe is conspiring for our success as much as we are trying to logic the fuck, through it, right? Like we are already a frequency match for all of the best fucking things. Right. And the universe wants us to succeed. And I just felt like that was such a moment in time, that I briefly had, not thought about for a little while, but in relation to this exact podcast, and having it all drop in and land with ease.
Absolutely. And the universe wants us to have our desires. And, my story I shared about connection, my desire for connection has been off the planet my whole life. And so we get to bring those desires through because we're radiating out of our being what we desire. I mean, I was just thinking about this last night as well before going to bed. I'm in a collaboration with two human beings that I absolutely love and adore. Yes. And do you know that I had these were two human beings, coaches. I worked with them. They helped me leave the nursing industry and to grow my business. And the moment that I worked with them, I had a desire to be in a collaboration with them. And 3 years later, that is unfolding. Yes. And it just happened. But my desire was so strong that it pulls in. It brings in all that we want.
And it's like, what else is now possible? Right? Like beyond our wildest dreams. Like there are things that, we can't even fathom yet that are available to us, but we have to cross those bridges as we were talking about before. We have to choose courage so that a new transformative level is actually opened up to us. And we're like, oh my God, I didn't even think that was possible for me. That wasn't even on my radar, and potentiality. What else is now possible? Yep. Right?
Absolutely. It's very exciting and it's such a wonderful journey to be on. And, we're only
and
just
scary and
exactly all the things, right? All the things because we are human beings and we experience the shifts within ourselves. So amazing conversation, Skye.
So my final question then for you today is simply for our listeners out there, I always ask our guests, in relation to the strategy or the energetics to seven-figure business, what is the main piece of advice that you would give to our listeners to help them to skyrocket to that 7 figures and beyond?
Oh, wow. Love that question. So my advice personally would be to go to the marketplace and to give some value to your people. Value before transaction. And what I've experienced is that people need to get a taste of us before they will actually invest in us. And they need to know that their investment is in the right hands and with the right heart. And so when you go to your marketplace and you continually give value and you continually go to your marketplace from the place of I'm here to serve, how may I help you? That is just going to generate the results. And that literally is where I started all of those years ago, from $30 spiritual emailed readings where I went to my marketplace and I gave 3 hours of my time every single week. And that is the business strategy and that is the business model that I use. And I never want to change it. I just want to get better at it. I want to find deeper levels of connection and intimacy. And so it's also about finding what works for you, because my strategy is not aligned for everyone. And the way that I do it is perfect for me. And I love every part of it. And so the thing is to go and find what it is that you would love to do. And you can create all of these new things. It can be, and we want it to be creative and fun and playful and in a way that gives value to people. So when people come in to join my free online event each month, they get a transformation. They get to heal their relationship with money. They get to shift from where they are. And so they really get the value straight up in the beginning. So it's all about giving. And then they get to know me. They get to feel their transformation, and they get to know, like, and trust. And so that would be the best advice that I have. And to find what you love and stick with the one thing. Like Skye's mentioned, I've been doing the same masterclass series every month for the last 3 years. Yeah. Women come and participate over and over. We just ran a free session a couple of nights ago I ran it with Renee Claire, and we had 22 women in the Zoom room, and there was a few people already saying, when's your next masterclass series? These people had already participated in the same masterclass series, and they come back time and time again. So if it feels aligned, stick with the same one and really master that and fall in love with every component of it, because you'll build that relationship to it, and it will just get better and better and better, and you'll be able to execute each minute component of it with more confidence and more passion and more connection and more love and more joy. And so there's a few hot tips.
Yeah. And like, as I said before, honestly, exactly what you just said right then, was what I was saying to, my beautiful clients yesterday when we were speaking about you, and that you genuinely are that, that embodiment of everything that you were saying, that certainty, that refinement, over like again and again, but also that passion and that desire. And, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Like I'm, really glad that we got to catch up, but two, it is genuinely an honor, to be able to have you here as a guest, to call you a friend and also a colleague, when we collaborate and things like that. You are an amazing human, and you deserve all of the awesome success that you have and more, because I truly know that you are out there, making a difference in this world, and we need more people exactly like you, Jess. So thank you.
Oh, you are amazing. And I feel exactly the same way about you. When we first connected, I was like, I need to know this girl. I need to be in her energy. And I just had such that magnetic pull towards you. So, when we connect, it's just like we're sisters. We align with so many different things. And, we definitely operate from the same energetic, like, heart space. So you're amazing. I just am so proud of you for the journey that you've been on, all of the things that you're achieving.
Thank you.
You're just such a wonderful human being. We are.
Oh, scratching the surface. Absolutely. What I'll say to everybody as well, look, please go and find Jess Quigley, befriend her, jump into her Your Money Blueprint masterclass series. Like, honestly, you'll get so much out of that. And, Jess has already told you today, connection is her greatest value, and how she moves through existence and life. And so I promise you that the person that you're listening to today, the person that I'm honored to call my friend, is the exact person that will show up for you, in all of your, you-ness, and serve at the highest always. So amazing. Please go look her up, befriend her, and, jump in on her programs and everything as well.
Amazing.
So much love.